So I just think it's marvelous what libraries are doing to keep wonderful things happening for us. They've been so flexible and creative. And so when Kimberly asked me to do this online, I was thrilled because I at first didn't think it was possible. And this is the third time that I've done this. And it really ends up being a wonderful way to be connected with other people and do some self-exploration. So thank you, Shorewood-Troy, for hosting tonight's Soul Collage. And this Soul Collage has a theme: new hope in the new year. What I love about Soul Collage is it's this wonderful way of compassionate inquiry, a way of just really taking a look at maybe parts of your personality, how you see the world, things that are on your mind, maybe something you're puzzling through. But it's really this beautiful process of self-reflection and self-exploration using found images from magazines and used books and, greeting cards, whatever comes into your home. I always hear from people who struggle with whether they're an artist or not. And I really want you to set that limiting belief aside if you can, because I really believe we're creative beings. And this is about a process. And so there's no conventional artistry required to this. The process has us do our creating on a 5 by 8 inch canvas. And I'm hoping you all were able to pick up the kit. But it is intentionally meant to fit on this card. And it's meant to bring one voice, one energy, one thought. So don't think of this like a vision board. It is really meant to be a snapshot in time, knowing that you can create more and more of these. But think about it as something that you want to express, but one energy, one thought. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. So this is a guideline. We typically stay away from words because adding words requires our brain to do an extra step of decoding. Now, that being said, I have several cards that have words on them. And let me give you an example of how a word might be used. Like, sorry for any White Sox fans, but you can see across the knuckles of this hand, it spells out Cubs. So if you're talking about, maybe that aspect of your personality, or maybe that's part of your hope in the new year is that they'll do well, you might use a word. I also have a little crosswalk. Can you see this? It says don't walk. I might, let's see. Can you see this in the, no, I can't. I'm not good at where this is in the camera. Anyway, I'm holding up a little don't walk sign. So that might be an appropriate thing to add to my collage because it adds something to my message. But typically we stay away from words. So if you want to explore Soul Collage, I invite you to visit soulcollage.com. The psychotherapist, Sina Frost, who developed this idea of self-exploration by creating cards, would encourage all of us to create what she called a deck of cards. So it would be just a deck of these kinds of cards with images. And she has them divided into suits. And you can really take this as deep and wide as you want to. So if you want to look into it more, you can visit that website. And I will also be sending out a follow-up email that gives you some links and some ideas about doing more of this kind of thing. So at the end of this process tonight, we'll be doing some sharing. And of course, that will be up to you, how much you would like to share, or even if you would like to share. But the idea is to respond to this prompt. And the prompt is, I am one who, or I am the one who. And this is where you get to give voice to maybe that internal thought that you've had, or really anything that you have come up with on your card. And the idea is to speak from your card and not about your card. And that's why we use this prompt that focuses on your perspective. I am the one who. So as we step into this theme, New Hope in the New Year, I want you to know that nothing is out of bounds. I mean, you might end up making a card that is more contemplative than you thought, or maybe darker than you thought, because there's something you have to maybe get out of the way before you can step into this hope that we all picture for 2021. So let me give you an example of that. This card is a card I made back in March, a few weeks into this public health emergency. And this was a way of processing how I was viewing things, how I was feeling. So I am the one who feels confined and is filled with worry and fear about what is happening around me. So you can see I chose a person in a protective suit, the hands showing, germs, the padlocks showing the locks. So this, you might end up with a card like this because it's where you're at, and you're thinking, I'm not sure I can venture into the territory of hope just yet. This is where I am. So just be open to whatever comes to you. Then this is a card I also made last year. And this is a more hopeful card in my mind. I am the one who chooses a higher vantage point so that I can see the light and the celebration that's on the horizon. So a much more hopeful card. When I sit down to collage, I bring all kinds of images to my workspace. So this is a picture of my workspace this morning as I was getting ready for this. I will bring more images to my workspace than I will use. The idea is to play with them, bring them onto that canvas and see what fits together. So I have very basic advice for you. The card that you got in your kit is likely to have one side that has a color and the other side that's white. And Sina Frost, the creator of this, encouraged people to actually paste on the colored side, because if you do end up with a deck of cards, then all the backs will be white, the same color. And if you ever use them for guidance, then you're not being tipped off by what's on the back of your card. I encourage you not to muscle the meaning of your card. So don't sit back and say, I am going to create a card that says, something in particular. I really encourage you to see what happens when you pull everything together and line it up. The message will come after that. And it may actually be solidified 2 days from now. But let that inner being make your choices and bring them into view to create your collage. If I'm having trouble getting started, I just pick things up and I start trimming. I just start cutting because it kind of gets me into the zone, gets me into the zen of this experience. So think of this as a compassionate inquiry. You might feel a little bit vulnerable. There might be something that's really on your mind, and just kind of let it go and see what happens. The last bit of practical advice is if you picked up a kit and you have one of these protective coverings, it is a very tight fit when you get it finished and sliding it in there. So just kind of gently coax it in there. I just don't want you to tear it accidentally.